So today we're going to talk about how you're going to buy a house. And in this video, we're going to talk more about um, pre-sales and assignments. These are usually for condos. And so if you're someone who's more focused on towards townhouses or detached properties, this video is not specifically for you because there's a separate criteria for those, and obviously the budgeting is also different for that. So this is more geared towards um, condos and someone who's bought a condo and is now looking to sell that condo. So basically an assignment. What this video is not about is basically how I'm going to advise you on how to get a mortgage or how much money you need to save down, like your down payment, and if you have any kind of debt, then how to deal with that. So we're not going to go into that. This is simply going to be me considering the fact that you've already figured these things out, you've got your mortgage part figured out, you know what your budget is, and now you're going to go to the next step is to finalize which properties you're going to get. So this is going to be the goal of this video. Now, before you go buy a house, there's a few things you need to consider before you go sign on the dotted line. Now, we're going to talk about some of these criteria in elaboration so that you can better understand what things to look out for. So number one is accessibility. Now you need to pay attention to where you're living, and this is something that is very personal to the individual who's buying the house. Maybe you have a car, maybe you don't have a car, maybe you have a car but you use public transit to commute to work. So someone who's living in Surrey and is going to Vancouver, if you're close to a SkyTrain station, it would really help you avoid a lot of congestion in downtown Vancouver. You can take the train and go to Vancouver downtown. You would save a lot of money on gas. You would save a lot of money on parking, and vice versa. You will save a lot on time. Now, if you have a choice of remote work, maybe you can go to some other place, but accessibility is something that you need to keep in mind. Now, at the same time, if you're someone who doesn't have a car, you use public transport like buses to commute, then how far is your bus stop? How far is the train station from the bus stop? So for an individual who's doing this for the first time, um, commute to work is very important. You cannot take it lightly because for a good part of your time is going to be spent commuting back and forth to work. So if it's possible with your budget, if your budget allows, then try to find something that's closer to work. Also, at the same time, this shouldn't be the only criteria. I mean, you can obviously find jobs in different places. If you're getting a good deal, then you can figure out if you can find a similar job in a nearby area. Because if you're going to spend an hour and a half commuting to work one way, an hour and a half commuting to work, commuting to home, it's going to eat up a lot of your time, and something you should really consider. Now, another thing to consider is schools. See, if you're someone who's got kids, you need to see where's the nearest school, if you have school bus coming in that area, if you need to go drop your kids off to school. So again, this is something I don't take that seriously because my kids are going out of the city to a different school. But then there are people who prefer to have kids nearby in a school that's very close to their house so the kids can walk. This is also an important factor, but at the same time, there are people who do consider the school's ranking in the area where the kids are going. Now, one more thing that is coming up is amenities. Now, with these huge complexes like condos and townhouses, some of them have really good amenities like swimming pools, gym, play area, barbecue area, common green spaces, and all that stuff. So, if you are going to go buy a house in a place like that, then these things not only add value to your property, but also, help you socialize with other people. You can get your kids out to play in those green spaces. You can have public barbecues. You can have your family over. You don't need to go to the gym if you have a gym. So these are some of the things you should consider before making a move. But out of all of these things, one of the most important thing you need to consider is the project start date and the end date. What I mean by that is basically when is the project starting, because with high-rise condos there's usually a 2-3 year waiting time. So like they'll start selling the condos when there's just a display home that is made, or a show center or whatever they call it, and you go there, you look at the floor plans and you choose whatever you like, and then you put a down payment and then it goes off to it. Now, especially when doing pre-sales, one more thing to consider. I know I spoke that we're not going to talk about mortgages, but one thing you need to consider is that there are some developers that get a builder's cap mortgage. This is a totally different subject. So if you're going to a conventional bank and you're getting a mortgage, that thing is only valid for like 3 or 4 months. So a builder's cap mortgage is something that stays for the whole duration of that project. So which means if you were someone who got a condo in 2024 and the project's being completed in 2027, that mortgage that you got approved for 2024 is going to stay the same. And that is only something you get for reputed developers, which means the chances of them going bankrupt is pretty slim. And so if you're getting that option, you should seriously consider that option. Now, another thing what happens is when you go to these building centers or show homes or whatever it is, you usually see a home that has been prepared to whatever the best floor plan is, and then they give you a slight idea as to what your unit would be like. So basically, you could look around and you will see, oh, these are the kind of walls you would have, these are the kind of appliances you would have, just to give you a bit of a feel. But you have to actually look at the floor plan and then choose which floor plan you like. Now, this is very important as to how you should read the floor plan. And we're going to go into great details with this thing, because some developers, they will just put out a floor plan where they'll say, okay, this is the bathroom, this is the bedroom, living room, balcony, entry point, and all that stuff. But then there were also developers that would show how big of a bed can fit in a bedroom. Now, this is very important because sometimes they will highlight if it's a king bed or if it's a queen bed, if there's side table. So it gives you a general visualization. Once you get a floor plan, you can see, okay, once you put a bed, how much space were you going to have? Because things get really tricky once you look at a floor plan. It says 3 bedrooms, but the third bedroom doesn't have a window, and it might only fit a small single bed, like for a kid. Then, depending on what vision you had, it might not play accordingly. So, it's very important. So, let's go into details in this thing. Now, let's look at this floor plan here. And as you can see, this is advertised as a 2 bedroom. Basically, it's a junior 2 bedroom. So if you look at the dark blue lines, these are the structural walls, which means there's no light coming through it. And then at the same time, if you look carefully in the master bedroom, these small breaks in the structural lines here and here, these are something what you call as windows. Now, which will give you an idea that this master bedroom here does get natural light. And as you can see, there's a bed that has been placed here, which is a queen size bed with 2 side lamps. It gives you a very good visualization for the floor plan that once you put a bed there, how much space would you have left in this place. Another thing to consider is that when you look at the other bedroom, this has been marked as a small bed. And one more thing to consider is that there's no breaks in these blue lines, which means there's no window in this room. And a lot of times when people look at these floor plans, they just go with it and they do not pay attention to all these things. And what ends up happening is that once they buy the place, it kind of like underwhelms them. So this is something you need to really pay attention when you're looking into the floor plan of the unit. Now that you understood the floor plan, um, of course, there's still more to it, but this is just to give you a basic idea. You need to understand how the pricing works, and it's very important that you take the pricing by per square foot. You know, when you go to the developers, they will say, oh, this unit is 600,000, 700,000, and it's very hard to compare those numbers to units that are 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. So a good metric would be is to generally just take the total price of the unit you're interested in. So for example, if your unit is 1,000 square foot and the developer is asking for $700,000, then the price per square foot would be $700. And that would be something very important when you go and compare the same unit with other developers and other units in the same development, and make sure you subtract the balcony out of it, because sometimes people would just add the balcony square footage as well. Um, it is part of the floor plan, and that they do add it when they're calculating strata, but uh, as a realtor, I usually don't like to add that in the calculation because it's not really usable. It's basically an outside area that you're barely going to use. Now comes the most important part, where you have to decide if you want to buy a pre-sale or an assignment. Now, something to consider with pre-sale is that usually it takes longer. So if today you put down a deposit on a project, it's most likely going to take 2 or 3 years. And if you're someone like how I thought of starting my house journey, then it might work for you, it might not work for you. It depends. Again, so keep in mind when you're going into pre-sale, there is going to be a good 2 year or 3 year timeline for it, and also consider the fact that there might be delays and they can only add more time to it. Now, another thing to consider with pre-sale is that usually there is a developer's contract. It's governed under the REDMA guidelines, and you as a person going into the contract uh, does not have much option to manipulate it. Basically, you go there, you sign the contract, and get a legal opinion from the lawyer. The lawyer will explain you what that says, and once you agree to it, the deal is firm. And basically, that's it. The developer will be providing you disclosures over a period of time as to uh, the changes that have been made and what other things are being worked on. So those are like disclosures that you do get. But apart from that, there's not much that goes on into it. But when we talk about an assignment, the big difference is that assignment is basically the same pre-sale condo that someone bought 2 years ago, but now maybe they bought to flip it, maybe their financial situation has changed, or maybe they're just trying to get rid of it and the closing is in the next 4 to 6 months or maybe even a year. Um, that assignment comes into market. Now, the thing with assignment is that the developer is very particular sometimes as to who they will allow to sell the assignment. If their unit's still empty, then the developer can say, yeah, you cannot sell the assignment. If the units have been sold, the developer might say, okay, you can put them on MLS or not, or you can do a private sale. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. We're not going to talk about it. What we're going to talk about is if you've decided that, let's say, 3 years or 2 years to wait for a pre-sale project is too long for you and you want to move now, then your best option is to go buy an assignment. And what you do in an assignment is that you go look at different contracts, what people paid for, and then you put in an offer. Basically, what you're doing is just buying that contract. Now, it's a great option. What you can do is basically choose the property you like and then put an offer on it. And this is where I want to put strong emphasis on people who are buying an assignment. If you look into this contract, you can see that there are three choices, choice A, B, and C. Now, I'm going to go into details as to what each of these choices mean, but I would strongly suggest to choose choice C. And it's because when you as a buyer pays for everything, all the funds are held in a trust account, which means the assigner doesn't get paid and neither does anybody else. And that is very good for you as a buyer so that you know that when the project is completed, and so when you have the keys to the property in your hand, that's when all the funds will be released, which is a far more secure way of conducting this transaction. Now, again, these were just some of the things to consider. while looking to buy a pre-sale condo or an assignment. But there are more steps, and this video will get too long. So if you have any questions, leave me a comment. I'll try to make another video about if you have any more queries, and then hopefully you can get more knowledge on this thing. Till then, have a good one.